Hey everyone, good afternoon. Happy New Eve, something like that. It's the 30th of December. My goodness. Wow. It's the 30th of December and it's around 2 in the afternoon on the East Coast. Welcome to Cocktails and Pajamas. I'm Heidi Ferguson and my co-host is Fidesta Ramsey. And this afternoon we have a very special guest. We've had her on before. We're having her on again because she's so great. And it's our dear friend Lindsay Mann, author extraordinaire of Beyond Love. And we're so thrilled to have her here. I will get my copy autographed at some point. So we're coming to you today, because we wanted to record in the afternoon. It just felt a little more apropos given where we are in the world and our time zones. And we just kind of figure like if people want to see us, they'll watch when they can. If you're watching live, we welcome you. So we're going to start with some check-ins just because it's been a few days and we kind of it's important to us just to kind of know where we are all coming from in our own spaces. So does someone want to begin or would you like for me to begin?
I'd love it. Go ahead. I was gonna say I'd love it if one of you started.
Okay. Okay.
Heidi, yeah, jump on in, Heidi.
I'm happy to start. Okay. So wow, it's Thursday and we're almost to the new year and this week feels a little discombobulated, especially just mentally. I'm like, what day of the week? It's that week between Christmas and New Year's, and where not a lot is happening, but yet a lot is happening. And I and so, as I've been kind of going through the week and sorting out my days and doing a little bit of piddly things here and there, I've really been getting clear about a lot of things because I spoke to several of my family members on Christmas Day and had some realizations about myself that were not what I thought, which was really fascinating. And it's interesting as because all of my siblings were all in our 50s. Some of us, most of us are past 55. But anyway, it's interesting as we get into our older adulthood how different things are, and how we've changed and molded ourselves and manifested things in our lives. And I'm like, wow, I'm doing pretty good, like I'm doing good. And so and the ease with which I have been able to let go of stuff that is not serving me on a deeper level that I hadn't really looked at before. And so I'm really pleased about that. And that's perpetual. That's moving and growing all the time. And I've shared with Fidesta and Lindsay that I put up some twinkle lights in my apartment. It's so cozy and I love it. They're smiling and I just love that they're smiling about it because I think they probably love it as much as I do. But it's really added a very cozy kind of sweet, innocent, nurturing kind of feature for me. And yeah, so I'm really appreciating that. Um, and I think that's it for me. Thank you for listening.
Heidi, I'm just getting like we need all the sweet, innocent, nurturing vibes we can get right now. Just holding that so many of us are threadbare. Like that's a place. I think I said I was threadbare in February, and then this year still continued to happen, right? So I'm noticing two things, which is one, like the resilience of the human spirit. Because I know I feel like I've weathered a lot this year, both personally, both and then globally, just being aware of how the world impacts me and then how I impact the world. And then this week in particular, I shared with both of you just feeling a little blurry and being curious, what is that? Right? There's like knowing my diet's different being home, knowing that that does impact how my mood and the level of carbs is like unreal right now. And also by choice, letting go a little, right? Not feeling like everything has to be as regimented, which I think is a good thing. And then I'm calling it boredom, but it's sort of this rest, digest, heal energy that's like, oh, I'm just watching this silly movie that I would not normally have time to watch. And something is happening behind the scenes in terms of my integration of this year. You know, I'm not necessarily having to write, I said to Lindsay, like 12 pages in a journal. There's just something moving, digesting in my spirit while I'm kind of doing silly things and being relaxed. That's probably the best word. There's something I'm noticing even as I begin to plan the new year of like, do I want to offer 6 p.m. client sessions? No, I don't think I do. At least not in the darker days, right? And just noticing, like, as soon as I try to put something in that will feel like a squeeze for me, being like, I want to do the squeeze, right? I really want to be as present and go to the depths I can go to. And that doesn't happen when I'm scattered. So there's just an interesting um, letting go of like my very well honed hustle muscle and kind of finding a way that feels healthier and actually more expansive than trying to get things done in 3 minutes and all of that, you know. Yeah, so that feels big to me, like a big shift that's happening quietly on the inside of being kinder and more nurturing with my own future. Yeah. How about you, Lindsay?
I agree with both of you on it feeling kind of blurry this time of year, and also just like paying attention to what nature's doing right now, which is going in and resting and being dormant. And what happens to us when we try to force ourselves to push and hustle at this time of year is like we get sick, because we're supposed to kind of follow the cycles of what's going on around us and shut it down. And I'm feeling that, and I too have been watching movies and just trying to do like mindless, brainless stuff, like comedy movie, take the wheel, like let me laugh, and I think we've been on such overdrive and our nervous systems have been so like, I don't even know how we are like, I think it's a miracle that we're able to still function considering the amount of bombardment that we've experienced. And so I agree, the resilience and our adaptability. And I'm so grateful and grateful to be aware of the importance of maintaining mental health and the awareness to catch it, because we don't always catch when we're doing too much, or we're over analyzing this too much, or we're going down this rabbit hole too much, or too much, but you start to feel it in your body, and your body is like, stop, stop, stop. And the more we listen to our body, the more we have this gauge of like, shut it down. And a big thing that was kind of coming up this week was like, I was talking to a friend, and we have too many tabs open, like in your body to like a computer. And it's like, you have too many tabs open. Not only close the tabs, not just put the computer on sleep, shut it down. And don't shut it down to restart it right away. Like shut it down, like let it have a break and then turn it back on. And I think that like really the greatest gift that we can maintain throughout this time is our mental health and our well-being. And, if we have the means to do that for ourselves, that's like crucial. And so, like reflecting back on this year, there are so many leaps and bounds in like really profound, beautiful, hopeful things that I've witnessed and experienced, you know, both with the two of you and in connecting with the two of you. And then also with these like personal little wins. And that in direct, almost like ahead with the atrocities and the calamity of the world. And it's fascinating that there seems to be almost like multiple worlds happening at once and multiple consciousnesses happening at once, and how they clash and how they, so it's just it's a lot. And so I am a big fan of, if you are able to shut it down, to shut it down and not get so caught up in, what am I doing in 2022? What am I doing next year? What am I going to achieve? I'm going to hit the ground running on day one. No, wait. Because, and also like things are so confusing. And if we wanted to continue working within this cycle, the natural cycle of the world, and we are nature, we are nature. If we want to work with the rhythms of nature, we're going to continue to like be nurturing our seeds and staying warm in the dark and being cozy. And, you know, as Heidi has these twinkling lights in her apartment, making your home a sanctuary and a place of comfort so that we recharge and nurture ourselves throughout the winter. And then by spring, once we have the energy back in us, then we can pop out into the world and do more things. But I almost feel like now more than ever, following these natural cycles is really going to benefit us in the long term. So that's my check-in. I'm totally, you know, fine. The blurriness is like, it's probably because like we're not supposed to think right now. We're supposed to shut down.
I so love this. I just, you know, I had said to Heidi before, like the juxtaposition of my snowy background with my summer sundress was like, this is what 2021 felt like to me. So I really appreciate you naming, like, we've had to hold such duality. And obviously life has its dualities, and I've been learning to accept that reality. So I'm not like, I don't know, fighting against reality with my energy. But I'm holding like this place that's like, I've been invited into building my capacity for juxtaposition and duality and contrast and even discomfort, right? Like significant discomfort, whether it's been stumbling through my relationship, trying to learn and grow and just bumble it up, to just seeing what's going on in the homeland, but then also seeing such an outpouring of love and grace and charity, and being like, how does the human heart hold all of this? Because it is. And that's just been a marvel to me.
Mm. Thank you, ladies. Yes. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the nurturing that we've all brought up in some way, right? And going into 2022, into this new year with the cycle that we're in and following the natural order of things and the importance of continuing in the cycle that we're in. So the cycle that we're in, we're still 2 days away from 2022, which means we're still in a cycle from 2021. And if we interrupt that, that's not going to feel so great and it's not going to work to our benefit. So whatever cycle we're in, we want to complete that. So in other words, a lot of people going into a new year think, okay, I'm gonna, a lot of people, I will say, well, both women and men are like, okay, I want to lose some weight. I'm going to stop doing this. I'm going to stop, I'm going to quit smoking or whatever their intention is, whatever their resolution goal is in the new year. And I think those are all great goals to have, and to not forget about where you are right now instead of abruptly trying to cut that off and switch things up. No, it just doesn't work for most of us. And so the gradual shifting as you complete one cycle and move into another is going to be a lot more nurturing, a lot more healthy for you, just mentally and physically and emotionally, like all those components. And yeah, because I know that for myself, when I am abrupt to myself, how jarring that feels. And it feels really like it feels shocking to my system. And I don't know about you, but I don't like to be shocked into anything. It just doesn't feel good. Um, so I'm appreciating our sharing here and being with the two of you in the space of all of this because we are holding a lot. We're holding a lot in our hearts. We're holding a lot in our minds. We're holding a lot emotionally. So um, be nurturing and be gentle with yourself. I think as humans, it's just the best thing we can do.
I love this so much. And I'm wondering if this lands for either of you. Part of my mental health scaffolding is really checking society's expectations against my inner intrinsic knowing. It's become a big part of how my mental health has flourished, has been like, wait a minute, okay, the Julian calendar says in the dead of winter, we're supposed to like be gung-ho about anything. Doesn't make it's nonsensical for me. I get that that's society's values being placed on me. I'm gonna hand it back, right? I like the gentle on ramp, Heidi. You know, I start to have an inkling about this time, the things I want to tend, like put my energy on and tend to. And then since Richard celebrates the Lunar New Year, it's like, okay, February 1st, I kind of check in gently with those intentions. And then the Persian New Year is the spring equinox. And that's when I'm like, cool, things are budding, things are blooming, the birds are back. I feel energetically aligned to like lift off. So I get these like little test runs with everybody and I still like harnessing that collective energy. But it feels disgruntled on January 1st. Like I feel disgruntled to think I'm going to just like kick ass after, 2 weeks of pajamas and cheese, frankly. Like it's just like, no, like you said, it's too abrupt, it's too jarring. I don't want to do anything that isn't kind towards myself and others, right? I wouldn't do that to a friend. Be like, cool, all of a sudden we're meeting at the gym at 6:30 a.m. Like, no, why do we do that to ourselves? I guess it's my
Right.
question.
Yeah. And if we are doing it to ourselves, we've talked about the ripple effect a million times, but how does that ripple out from our energy onto other people? So if we're not being gentle with ourselves, there's no way in the world, even if it's not our intention to not be gentle with others, but if we're not gentle with ourselves, we're certainly not going to be gentle with other people. So maybe keep that in mind. If you're going to be like, okay, I'm gun ho to move into 2020 and here I am and woo, I got myself. Really check in and ask, do I really have myself? And what does that mean? What does it mean when I say, Heidi, I have you? What does that really mean? Um, yeah, and be honest with yourself about that, the response to that. And if you don't know, it's okay, but don't fool yourself either. Yeah.
Yeah, Lindsay, how about you in terms of like what society expects of us and what's realistic and or like the kindness, the self-kindness?
I actually have like a pretty like strong feeling in my heart where it's like I like the society's take on things is applying to me less and less and less. I'm feeling further and further and further connected to how that all works. And, we're not one size fits all with everything, and we move at different paces. We have different life experiences. And I think a lot of the nurturing is like checking in with like, okay, well, if you want to do this thing, if you want to set this resolution for yourself, this change in your life, what's really at the root of it? Is it coming from an internal thing, like something that you really feel in your heart? Or is it coming from an external thing? And I'm always open to like, what are like the other possibilities, right? So if we're talking about wanting to jump into something and then suddenly you have this expectation and it's so jarring, and then you disappoint yourself and then you beat yourself up for that, and that does not serve you at all. So if we're talking about something like I think it all has to do with perspective and like really deeply checking in with your heart and not listening to what everyone else is doing. And the nurturing is like, okay, well, if maybe it's not, I want to exercise to lose weight. Maybe it's, I want to get back into my body. Like think about the trauma of the past couple years and how many of us have dissociated. We've bounced out of our bodies. So a lot of us have to come back into our bodies. We have to ground and be like, oh my God, like I'm alive. I'm alive. This is great. Like I'm in my body. Like really start there. And maybe something simple is like, holding 3-pound weights in both hands and just feeling yourself, feeling the gravity, and like I'm grounded I'm in the world. I'm in this body. I'm real. One of the things that I love to do, and I've been struggling myself to get into my body, but I'm trying to remind myself, like, I'm in this body, I'm here on earth, like be in your body. I spend so much time up here and it's like, no, like you're here, be in your body. So I'll wake up in the morning and I'll hold my weights and I'll move them the way my body wants me to move my body. Like maybe it's like a funky little stretch or like a this or that. Maybe it's not some like crazy heavy, CrossFit or marathon running preparation thing. It's just wake up and be like, hey, I'm in my body. And like, I like to use physical activity as a way to like move my emotions through me. And so if it's like, I'm really angry, like maybe I'll go kickboxing and punch something. Like that's a really healthy way to deal with rage and any violence that comes up in you. And just being in your body and using it as a tool to move things along, to move things through you, to burn it off. And what's the result? You get stronger. And in the mind-body connection, it's like when your body feels strong, like the rest of you, your spirit is like big and strong. And that's it. It's like our bodies are reflections of the mind, body, spirit, emotional, mental experience. And so there's so many things. It's just kind of like getting to that, like really like simple baby step by step. Like what do you want to do for you? Like, what do you need? Like, forget a resolution about society expectations, but like, what do you need? And give that to yourself. Invest in yourself, whether that's time, energy, even money, like whatever it is, invest in yourself, invest in your wellness, invest in your own personal nurturing. We all need nurturing so badly. And that's something that we can give to ourselves. So that's kind of where I'm thinking.
Yeah, self-nurturing is so important. Um, Especially if we don't have access to anyone else's nurturing. It's important to be able to not only identify it, because sometimes we're not even aware that that's what we need in the moment. And it's really important to be able to identify that that is what we need, is nurturing for ourselves. And then once we've identified it, to be able to give it to ourselves. So what might that look like, right? And some people call it self-care. There are a lot of terms for it. And I will say one of the favorite ways that I take care of myself and nurture myself is almost on the daily, I would say on the daily, I take a nap. And I lay down anywhere between 2 o'clock and 4:30. And even if I don't sleep, I just like being in my bed because it's my safe place, and I love my bed so much. It's almost ridiculous how much I love my bed. But it's so comfy, and uh, and the covers and everything about it is just, it's very inviting and enveloping and nurturing. Yeah. I'm curious how, I would love to hear from both of you how you self nurture or self care.
Yeah, I was just thinking about this mind body connection you're both sharing, because I know my strengths are a little bit more spiritual, emotional, mental, and I can forget the body. At least many years I have been like, oh, wait, there's also this thing I have to take care of. Right. And sometimes I do it at a super functional level. I get the protein shake in, whatever, whatever. But this place, like when I'm on the yoga mat, for example, and it doesn't have to be like Ashtanga and flow and hardcore. It could, if anything, be the yin style, which is I'm giving my body to the earth. I'm letting my body feel held by the ground beneath me and like letting go, right? Like all those muscles that are compensating for holding up, just letting them go has been a big, big lesson for me. Because then my mind follows, right? The afferent data from our body is 10 times more to the brain than like anything the brain does going down. So that bottom up approach of have your body feel it and your brain will get the info and believe it. It's just such a cool part of neuroscience. And then I really hold the first at least 2 hours, if not 3 hours of the morning sacred. There's cuddles, there's meditation, there's tea time, there's some piano, if the neighbors are up. Um, like nothing gets into my world, because what I've noticed on the other end when I haven't been boundaried there with myself is getting up, checking the phone, going to Instagram, checking my emails, seeing the texts coming in. And I'm like totally hijacked. It's like eating junk food in the morning. So for me, like the world doesn't come in till I'm resourced and ready for it. And I have that privilege, right? I don't have kids. I don't have to like, I'm not like a surgeon who's like, I've got to be on my texts. So that, and then same thing with winding down in the evening, right? The lights are dimmed, the electronics are put away, there's candles lit, there's maybe some reading of a book, read to me via Audible, because often my eyes are tired by the end of the day too. So there's a little intention around how the day ramps up and how the day ends. And it keeps me honestly in a good place to then be with other people. I don't hold it as entirely selfish because it's where I serve from. So energy management and also like, not just the food you put in, but all the intake. I am super sensitive. So I have to be aware of where I am in my cycle, where I am mentally that day, how resourced I am, because something can take me out, like a really tough movie or a really tough piece on the news. So I have to know where I am and what I actually have capacity for that hour, that day. Yeah.
I have some similar habits as far as like starting the day, ending the day. And it's been maybe 4 or 5 years. My phone is always on airplane mode when I go to bed. And I don't take it off airplane mode until I'm ready to start my day. Again, I have the luxury of being able to do that, to not have to be on call in the middle of the night. winding down in the evening, I've switched my lighting to be more warm and dim and soothing at night. A salt bath, very simple salt bath, is something that really serves me. And I ritualize it by soaking in it. Maybe I light some candles, maybe I'm listening to some music, or maybe nothing at all. And I stay in the tub as it's draining out, with the intention that anything that's kind of sticky or sucky or not good for me or toxic that's in my mind, body, spirit experience goes down the drain. And I don't get out of the tub until the water is completely empty. It's like this very specific thing that I've been doing for years. So that's something I do that's really important for my energy. And starting, I have my little breakfast making coffee ritual. And I have a little balcony, and I have morning doves and blue jays and little chickadees that come. I have bird seed there. So I've created this little plant, like special location on my balcony for all of them. And so I'll have my coffee and I'll just look at them, and they'll fly over, and that means that they know I'm going to give them food if I see them. So I put the seed out there and kind of hang out with them. I'm very big on fresh air. Even when it's cold, being very mindful of energy. But I open the windows and have fresh air come in for at least like 5-10 minutes, even if it's cold, just keeping my space really, really clean and feeling good. Yeah. And I like move things around. I'm very big on altars. So my home is always like, has these little nooks and crannies. And whether it's first thing in the morning or at night or sometime throughout the day, I'm pretty consistently checking in and listening to spirit about anything that's like going on in my life. So those are my ways.
Thanks, Lindsay. Thanks, Fedesta. So I wanted to add to my self-care, which is when you mentioned the phone, my phone is on D&D 24/7. I'm so sensitive to the alerts, and even vibrate, even like to have my phone on vibrate, I can't. It's too much. And I'm even sensitive when I'm on a call with someone and their alerts are going off. And I'm just like, it's it's so it's so jarring to me, even though it's not loud. I'm just like, what's happening? Because I'm in the moment. Like, I am focused, I'm in the moment, I'm having conversation with a couple of people, and there's this disturbance. I'm going to call it a disturbance, right? Um, and and I'm like, and in my mind, I'm thinking, is not everyone disturbed by that? Does not everyone hear that? Because I hear it, and it's disturbing me. And let's say it is disturbing other people, but they're not saying anything. Um, yeah, I just felt it was important to put that out there, because that is an option, to put your phone on D&D if you are, you know, unnerved or disturbed by alerts. I want to highly recommend it. And also recommend that if you choose to not turn the alerts off, to not necessarily respond right away. I've never understood that. Like, I've never understood, because I have messaged people not expecting them to get back to me right away, but at some point, like, I kind of figure within 6 to 8 to 12 hours they'll probably get back to me. If they don't get back to me and it's 24 hours later, there's clearly something going on. They're busy, and that's okay, right? But I've had people literally get back to me within seconds, and in their response, they're like, "Well, I'm in the middle of blah blah blah," and I'm like, "Well, then why are you responding? Like, it's okay for you not to get back to me in the moment, you know." So, for anyone who needs to hear that, take care of yourself and respond when it works for you, when it's good for you. Um, yeah, because I don't want to feel like I'm a bother to anyone. But if I text you or leave a voicemail, feel free to respond when you can and when you want. All right, I'm going to get off my soapbox.
It's so cool to hear this because perhaps the invitation is like we give each other permission there, right? Imagine if like everyone who's watching this just says to their friends, "Hey, it's all good. Like we don't have to respond in less than 10 seconds. Like let's
Yeah.
all just exhale here. It's not an expectation. You're not a bad person if it takes you till the next day to do it. Like, can we all give ourselves that? Can we give each other that permission? Because sometimes we need that from each other. Um, and the piece, Heidi, that I love is this idea of figuring out what works for you, right? Like email, I check my email 10 a.m. and I check it at 3 p.m. and I am not in there forevermore. I couldn't deal with that. And I forget I even have a phone a lot of the time. It's my camera. That's how I look at it. So it's never next to me. It's somewhere in the house. And when I'm like, I'm open to connection, I'm open to contact. Let me go check it. I'm doing it because there's an inner drive to connect, not a responding to, I suppose. I don't know if that makes sense. It's obviously I want to be considerate of other people and respond in a timely manner, but I do it when I'm actually excited to connect.
Yes.
So it doesn't feel like a chore ever. Right? It's like when I've made a cup of tea and I'm like, what's going on with my peeps? Let me go look. Right? So just those like, I don't know, creative solutions for your nervous system feel important.
And it feels a little more, I would also add to that, it feels more authentic when that is your mindset, when you decide to respond to a message, it feels a lot more authentic.
Girl, I did it to you once where I had like 3 minutes between two things and you were like, that's a weird response, right? Like you caught it energetically
I don't
as this
remember that.
I don't know what it was, but like I was curt and you were like, that doesn't sound like you. And it was literally
Mm,
because I thought I had to get back to you in those 3 minutes instead of doing it genuinely a little
mm,
later. So it also impacts the people we love,
sure. Sure. Yeah.
right? It's like you think you're being a nice person, but then you're actually making things crunchy.
Crunch. Yeah. Yeah. And it's not necessary. It's really not necessary to do that. Yeah. Um, yeah. So, one of the reasons we asked Lindsay to be on here today is because, as those of you we've had her on before, and those of you who know Lindsay knows that she reads the Akashic Records, and so we were going to have her go into the records, and we were going to have some questions for her, and so I don't know if you feel necessary to explain what the records are, or I'm going to let you kind of take it from here.
Awesome.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely. It never hurts to share what the records are. And there's so many ways that people describe them, which is really cool. So the Akashic Records are the electromagnetic imprint of everything that's ever happened in the universe. So that definition is from the Hungarian philosopher of science, Ervin Laszlo. And what he's saying there is that the universe itself has an information field where the imprint, the atoms, the energy of everything that's ever existed in the universe is stored. You can access that. We can channel that, right? So energy, atoms, they can't be destroyed. They transform into something else. So what's really exciting about that is this universal information field, the Akashic realm, is something that everybody can access. Everybody has the ability to access it. It takes practice. It takes practice. And ideally, because the information is very clean, it's very clear. And if you think of us, our bodies, we are conduits, we are channels of energy and electricity. So the clearer and cleaner and open, the more open that we are, and just with practice, you can receive information from the records. People do it all the time, right? Not even knowing that they're doing it. So the way that I learned how to do it is with intention, with an opening prayer and a closing prayer. So my teacher, Christina Cross, her teacher is Linda Howe, and Linda Howe channeled an opening prayer and a closing prayer, where the words, the vibrations of the words are requesting access to the records in a very specific way, right? So for today, you'll hear me say the opening prayer. So some of it is said out loud and some of it is said quietly to myself. And then I say the records are now open, and the records are open in whatever we're opening in. And for today, we're going to be opening the records on the collective of humanity and asking questions around the collective. And so you'll hear that in the opening prayer. And again, some of it I'll be saying it quietly to myself. And then when we're in the records, Heidi and Farishta can ask any question they want in regards to the collective of humanity. And I'll be channeling and receiving information from the records, answering those questions. A really wonderful way that I like to express how the Akashic Records communicate with us is like a picture is worth 1,000 words. And the Akashic Records speak to us from the consciousness of the soul, from the soul's perspective. And it's the highest perspective of you and everyone connected to you. So it's our light and our dark, our shadow and our light in perfect balance. So we're never going to hear anything that we're not ready to hear, and we're never going to hear anything harmful. Okay. And the records have this creatively intelligent way of knowing who's going to hear the information. And so it meets us exactly where we're at in our consciousness. So anybody that hears this information that's being channeled, it's going to reach you, and you're going to understand it basically. So that's what's really cool and exciting. And I think maybe it's just better to jump in and see what it looks like to open the records and have a reading. But that's the general explanation of what they are. Okay. So if there are no further questions between Heidi and Farishta, I'll just jump in and open. Okay. So this is how it goes. So just be patient while I'm being quiet. Okay. So we're going to open on the collective of humanity. Okay. So this is the opening prayer. And so we do acknowledge the forces of light, asking for guidance, direction, and courage to know the truth as it is revealed for our highest good and the highest good of everyone connected to us. O Holy Spirit of God, help me to know the collective of humanity in the light of the Akashic Records, to see the collective of humanity through the eyes of the Lords of the Records, and enable me to share the wisdom and compassion that the masters, teachers, and loved ones of the collective of humanity have for it. The records are now open. So what's interesting is in opening the records and even saying the prayer, sometimes I'll already start receiving information. I call it it's an opening message or an opening visual. And that was coming through really clearly. And I want to just share the first thing that came through. So the collective of humanity, they're showing like the silhouette of a person, like a profile, and above the crown, this is our wisdom, our crown chakra. This is our connection to the divine, to God, to everything up there. And what's interesting is, if we're going by chakra colors, they were showing me this as red. It shouldn't be red. Red is your root. Red's down there. And they're explaining a couple of things, that the collective is both fearing of God, fearing of the divine because of what's happening in the world, but also angry. And what I'm getting from that is almost like a people. It's not the divine. This is people. So I'm getting very much a like, humble yourselves. What's happening in the world is people. Has nothing to do with God. It has nothing to do with the divine. They're actually saying these are the lower vibrational experiences of humanity. It has nothing to do with anything sacred. So we're starting there. But I invite you just to go wherever you'd like. But that was the very, very big opening visual.
Well, how poignant and telling. So telling, at this time. And I want to say, if I can comment about that, just my 2 cents is that energetically, what I have felt is the overall fear of humanity. And when that is what is most pervasive and obvious and on the surface, that is when we're going to be in our most pain and less clear and foggy and all the other adjectives that we can think of. And so and it's also not hard to change that energy, right? It's not hard to change. It's not hard. It's a choice.
Mm-hmm.
It's really as simple as acknowledging that, okay, so I'm scared right now, and I can also choose love, because the opposite of fear is love. And by going within, that's where I feel safest. That's where most people connect to themselves and feel safest. So if you're out here and you're feeling scared, fear, the collective fear of the world, like we've talked about on this podcast today, the hunkering down, the nurturing, the going within, the seeds that we're planting, the earth, the grounding, all of it. It's in so many words, it's all we're saying the same thing over and over and over. It's important to be mindful about that. Because we can, if we want to, we can all collectively get to that place. But I am feeling the collective fear of humanity. That's just simply where we are right now. And for those that are listening, I want to encourage you, if you want to get out of that space, is the word choiceful, is to make a choice. I'm going to make up the word choiceful. Be choiceful, make a choice, and say, I'm going to do this differently. I'm going to love. I'm going to come from a place of love. Yeah.
They're confirming what you're saying about going within. And they immediately showed, okay, so someone comes and sits, and it's like taking responsibility for yourself, like someone sitting in meditation or just sitting with themselves. and the going within, it went like this, and then boom, like a huge, like almost like a wow, white light goes right
Yep.
back up, and it
Yep.
clears it right. It's going to clear the fear. It's going to, the second you go in, you go boom, right up. And then your connection is like really, I mean, it's almost got like a vibration. It's like a lightsaber.
Yeah.
Like you become this lightsaber when you go in. So,
Yeah.
and I'm getting like massive confirmation in what you're saying.
Mm. Mm.
Yeah. And I think I'm holding this place of, there's human spirit and there's human animal, right? So I'm feeling a lot of tenderness and compassion, being like, oh, so many people are in their scared animal. Okay. Of course. This has been a really trying few years, for many a trying lifetime. And I think I'm aware, knowing where I was in my 20s and of being really victimy and in that place, that I actually needed to lean on the resilience of others. I didn't have it, I couldn't dig it up in me. I hadn't yet practiced it. So there was a little bit of being guided to how to connect with myself. So just wanting to name that too before we ask our questions. Like if you don't know how and you're stuck, if you can at least observe that you're stuck, get support.
And as you were mentioning scared animal, they were actually showing like the big bad wolf, like in a fairy tale, terrified. So they're actually saying like even the strongest, scariest, like meanest, baddest characters you think in the world, they're scared. So whether they're showing that or not, or acting out, etc. When you said scared animal, they showed like the big bad wolf, like shaking like a little scared animal.
And I'm going to equate that to the most powerful leaders of the world. I'm just really feeling that intuitively. Okay, so I have my question ready. Is that okay? Can I start? Okay. So I'm curious to know, what question can people ask themselves in 2020 that would support them in the new year to be better versions of themselves?
What am I responsible for? Where can I take responsibility for myself? Who am I responsible for? And that answer is answered very quickly. They said, me. You're responsible for yourself. What other questions? They're saying, where can I grow? They're showing like tending a garden. So after asking those questions about responsibility, from there, the next question is, where can I grow? And growing is like expand. They're saying it's not like a grow, like a work hard. It's like, where can I expand and take up space in the world? Where do I feel big? Where do I feel my spirit? Where do I take up space? Where do I feel expansive? Because they're kind of saying like, that's where you need to be right now. You need to be where you feel big. You don't need to be where you're feeling contracted and conflicted and constricted and tiny and small. So there's a little bit of a step by step with that. They're saying there's an invitation to go where you grow.
And so I have so many things coming to me right now. It's exciting. So as this idea of and truth of perpetual change and growth, what I want to, if I'm going to just add a little bit to what you just shared there, Lindsay, which is, in order for us to move into another, like a higher dimension, the fifth dimension at this point, because we're 3D beings. Some of us are 2D beings, but 3D beings living in this world. Um, and in order to move into, we are going to expand. And there's going to be some fear around that expansion. There's always fear around expansion as we grow. And as you said, the first step is to be aware of it, like to know that, okay, I'm experiencing all this and oh my God, it feels so scary. And what do I do with it? And what does it mean? And all of that. And it, whatever the answers are to that doesn't really matter. What matters and what's most important for us spiritually as we grow is that we take note, like you said, be aware and take note of these things. And then because once you know, once you can see what's happening, you can't go back. Like once we start growing emotionally and spiritually, there's no going back. We can only move forward. And as in our emotional growth and our spiritual growth work hand in hand, and we can't have one without the other. So um we're all moving, always moving into, some of us a little bit at a slower pace than others, and that's okay. We are where we are in our lives. But as we're growing into these new spaces, allow yourself to be scared. It's okay to be scared, but don't get stuck there. And like Fedesta mentioned before, if you need support, reach out for support, ask somebody, go to a sacred psychic, someone who specializes in this kind of work. And I will talk about so Fedesta does coaching and I do spiritual coaching, and Lindsay does Akashic Records, so we're all kind of versed in this in some way. We all work a little bit differently, um, but certainly find someone who is trustworthy, because there are a lot of people out there who claim to be and they're not. And I wouldn't want anyone to get connected to the wrong person and be told a bunch of BS, because that doesn't work. Um, I kind of feel like I'm getting off on another tangent, but I wanted to kind of reiterate that. But um, yeah, thank you for that response, or thank the records for that response. Yeah.
They were adding to what you were saying about the fear of expanding, and they were saying don't be afraid of it. They were almost showing like someone like up into like the heavens, like receiving all this like I was saying like light and just like this information, and then like coming back into earth and kind of growing and getting like this and like going up and almost like sucking it in and then growing here on earth. And it was interesting because it was like, as you were talking about the fear, they were like showing this person as like this balloon, this like big bubble, and then they were like floating around. And with the fear, they were saying don't be afraid of it. And sometimes what happens is the fear that you're feeling is not yours. It's other people witnessing your expansiveness, and they're projecting it, they're mirroring it, and you think it's your fear. But they're saying like when you actually feel expansive, you're like big and light and free and full and oh, it's also good. But then if you talk to someone who's afraid of your expansiveness, you're like, oh, this is scary because it's scaring them, or they're threatened by me or something like that. And that's what you take in. And then you go and your balloon deflates. That's what they're saying about what you said. So if you're afraid of your expansiveness, it's not always yours. It could be people's reactions to you expanding.
Right. And if you're confused about the fear being yours or someone else's, ask that question, and ask that question that specifically, and you'll get an answer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also wanted to just chime in on the growth piece, because I love that the questions are, what am I responsible for and where can I grow? Those are deeply empowering questions, in my opinion. A mentor of mine recently said the world is run by adaptive children, right? So young, wounded people. And that the wise adult in us is very different. That feeling is very different. So when you said grow, I also thought about maturing. right? From our adaptive strategies and the ways that we kind of do things sideways to growing, not just like that beautiful expansion, but also growing up, right? And the expect to be afraid, right? Like I just want to bust a fantasy that all the growth is like fairy dust and unicorns. Like expect fear. Don't be surprised by it, because otherwise you're not really in touch with how expansion works, you know.
Didn't realize I was muted. Do you have a question for Lindsay Foresta?
Yeah, if we feel complete with that question, that was juicy. Knowing that people are feeling pretty threadbare and might not even know how sensitive they're feeling in these times. How can we, I liked how Heidi put it, where can we focus our love? How can we show our love to each other in the new year?
They're saying stop attacking. And they're also saying self-attacking. So stop, it's like stop attacking each other and stop attacking yourself, right? At a certain point, the self-indulgence, you are now attacking yourself. There's a certain point, and I'm getting the sense of everyone saying, oh, I'm so tired of this. I can't handle this. I can't watch the news. I can't. And they're like, okay, so stop. Just turn it off. Do something else. Because what they're saying is like, now you're whining and complaining. And it's there's a little bit of a tough love in here. And it feels like it's like, there's like kids on a playground and there's like people getting into fights over here and one kid, like, there's like all this craziness on the playground. So they're showing us as like, we're a bunch of little kids on a playground. And it's like, okay, recess got out of control. Recess is over. They're kind of going like this. And that's going back to what you were saying about the child. We're in our, is it the strategic child or what was the, so they're agreeing with that example of what's playing out. So I'm curious if that fully answers your question or if you have more, you want to ask more.
I love that because, yeah, I do think everyone's in their, strategies. It's how we handle stress. So it all makes sense. I think because I keep getting these neon lights on like fierce love. What is fierce love? And how do we show that to each other? Right? Like how do we deliver fierce love to each other in the new year?
How can we deliver fierce love to each other in the new year? So they're saying first, the hardest part, they're saying more than ever, we have to stop attacking ourselves. And that's the self-nurturing, the self-care, the self-love, the boundaries with yourself. Okay, this doesn't work. I'm not doing this anymore because I'm just getting the first step is here at home within you individually. And only then can you inspire. And I'm almost getting like this, it's a magnetic, it's a frequency that comes off of you. So they're kind of saying, they're kind of like, yeah. Everyone's talking. And they're kind of like, actually like that level of fierce love is felt. It's actually not expressible through words. So if you have that fierce love for you fully, and then you fully fiercely love your partners, your friends, your family, your whole unit becomes this magnetic frequency of fierce love. And they're saying the words don't even have to be spoken. It's almost like you just kind of like roll around in the world. You go to a place with your peoples, and it's just felt. They're really saying it's a felt experience. Fierce love is a felt experience, and the feeling is more powerful than any words they're saying come up with.
That is so beautiful.
Mm.
Thank you. I remember watching a movie recently, and it's like neighbors who bring like a warm, yummy casserole to another neighbor. And I'm like, how do we do this in the digital age? Like, what's our warm, yummy casserole at each
Right.
other's doorsteps, right?
Yeah.
They're adding on to what you said in agreement, and they're actually saying like it's felt, and also your actions speak louder than words. So it is that, you're bringing the warmth and the love of a home cooked meal to a neighbor. That speaks volumes. Those words don't need to necessarily be spoken in depth.
So I just wanted to add that as you were sharing all that, the words that came up for me are the energy of the tentacles. Like it radiates. Everything has a ripple effect. And so I often see, for me, the visual that comes up is that of an octopus. And not only the tentacles of the octopus, but also there are hundreds of suction cups underneath the tentacles of an octopus. Octopus is an amazing animal. And so the things, everything that it comes into contact with and then feels in its suction cup, in the tentacles, it's just incredible. Like I'm going, oh my God, like imagine that amount of love, right? Like imagine feeling that love for yourself, and then knowing, just without doing anything, but knowing that that love is radiating out into the world. Oh my God, it's so beautiful. Yeah.
I'm hearing like fierce love being so nurturing, right? We come back to nurturing. Can we nurture?
Yeah.
They were showing like the very end of a tentacle, almost like a finger point, like this. They were showing just that part touching the water, the surface of the water, and that having a ripple effect of a concentric circle. So they're actually saying like it doesn't even have to take the whole octopus at all, just the tiny little touch, a tiny little touch in the water. Woo!
Lindsay, when you said the word unit, just having parents in the military, like this feeling tone came up for me, is like how well you take care of your unit, so that you are not just tight, but like synergistic and adaptive and intuitive, like the depth of connection of a unit in order to survive. And I like to bring it, up into the frequency of thriving, right? So it just gives me this feeling of like, oh, tend to your unit. Like that is a sacred effort and labor to make sure that that unit is really shining bright, right?
Yeah. So unit military soldiers, and they're saying love warriors. And they're showing like small little units all over the world, like small little units, like very diverse, coming together in like a really big way. There's something about small units and the impact of all these. I'm just getting like hope and faith that there are a lot of small units that are having like a really big ripple effect, a really big impact. Yeah.
You two are definitely a part of my very small unit that I really just feel really grateful for in these times. Yeah. Heidi, do you have any questions? Or Lindsay, did you have a question to bring into the convo?
I don't I don't know what to ask. Maybe in sitting in this space where I'm like in it and I'm so close to it. It's, let me see. I like to always end with what's the most important message we need to know. That's always a nice general closing message.
Okay.
So what's the most important message that the collective of humanity needs to know at this time? There's a rainbow on the other side. There's a rainbow on the other side, and they're saying abundance. And it's interesting because they're kind of saying the long term, like they're showing like almost like a timeline. This time, dark, rainy, shadowy, stormy, da 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 da. It's like this small. And then from here to there is like a huge rainbow. So I think they're trying to let us know that this time frame, what's going on is shorter, and what's on the other side is beautiful. Yeah.
It sounds like we're so close.
They're
Like
saying it's up to you.
we're so close, and it's all up to the individual in how we get there and how soon we get there, how quickly we get there, what we choose, like how we choose our own work. Like, what are we going to do to ourselves, to open our hearts, to open our hearts to other people, to ourselves? Everything we talked about today. Yeah.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
beautiful.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm also hearing like being able to ask empowering questions even when we're disempowered, right? The
Mhm.
why me, or this is like, why is this happening? Just there's certain questions we can gravitate towards that are like, how's this growing me? How's this actually serving me? Even though it's a total shit sandwich, whatever it is, right?
Mhm.
Not diminishing the tough part of it, but like letting the storms grow you.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
And Lord knows we could all use that rainbow. So
Mhm. Yeah, that's nice to see. So
Mm,
should I close the records on that note with
yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
I would like to thank the masters, teachers, and loved ones for their love and compassion. I would like to thank the Lords of the Akashic Records for their point of view, and I would like to thank the Holy Spirit of Light for all knowledge and healing. The records are now closed. Amen. The records are now closed. Amen. The records are now closed. Amen.
Amen.
thank you so much for
Thanks, Lindsay.
Thank
This-
you. Thank you.
bringing your gifts, letting us be witness to some really important guidance as the year starts.
Mhm.
Yeah, curious how we want to close our call
I
today.
think this is a great place to end the call. Yeah. Yeah, this was just lovely. Beyond, not that I go into this with any expectation, because I don't. Um, but it's certainly beyond anything I could have imagined for the end of the year. Thank you both for being here. Thank you, Floresta, for being my podcast partner, for creating this together, and yeah, and for the trust and love that you two hold for me, and that I allow myself to hold for myself and for you. Yeah, I'm just honored. It's truly an honor.
I just so love how we support each other. We just constantly feel cared for and considered, and then able to serve. And like it just, how much what we've fostered as friends helps me serve in the world. Like it's all connected. So thank you, because it
Mm.
ripples way beyond me. Getting to be a recipient of both of your hearts and your love and your care, it does ripple.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. Thank you for being in my life this past year in such a big way. You guys are amazing. I am eternally grateful
Mhm.
for us finding each other and bonding the way that we have and supporting each
Yeah.
other.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, and may everyone watching be blessed to find their peeps and find their nurturer and their support
Yeah.
and their own deep, sweet knowing about what's right for them. I think it's really vital that we each get to choose what's best for us and to know that that can change.
Yeah.
So, all of that is kind of a creative process, this whole living
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
Thank you, lady.
Thank you, everyone, and Happy New Year, and here's to 2022. Much love.